books for many reasons, one of which is that my father had 52 first cousins, and so on the average each year, when I go around talking about my books, each year on the average I meet about 4 new cousins. This year, last week in San Francisco, I met a new second cousin and that second cousin's parents. Next week in London, I've already heard from a second cousin whom I was able to track down on the family tree. When I talked here last time, I had the pleasant surprise of meeting my college roommate, whom I had not seen in 45 years. And so we'll see at the end of this evening who will emerge from the audience, who among you are cousins or roommates that I haven't met for a long time.
First of all, my friends were illiterate. And I've loaned it to people, and I would not take it back until I knew they read it, and I would quiz them about the anachronism principle and all that kind of things. So thank you for that. And I guess a question. I really just wanted to say thanks. But I'll ask a question, and that's about in collapse. How valuable do you think this metaphor is of chopping down the last tree, like on Easter Island or any of those islands where they end up chopping down the last tree? Because someone else, like if I was living there, I wouldn't have been the one to chop down the last tree. Someone else would have done it. I know that someone else would have done it. And so similarly now, like we're just about at Hubbard's Peak, and we're going to start running out of the cheap oil. And the U.S., even if we did all we could to, make our lifestyle sustainable, there's always going to be China. What incentivizes them to cooperate with the rest of the world?
A key question. Yeah, this is what's known as the tragedy of the commons. Yeah. This tragedy of the commons operates on many scales. It's the tragedy that happens, that arises all too often when you have a group of consumers consuming and competing for a shared resource, a resource that is not privatized. And often it proves impossible, or it doesn't happen that the consumers agree on sensible rates of resource exploitation. Instead, they reason that if I don't chop down that tree or if I don't catch that fish, somebody else will, and therefore I might as well be the one to do it. Yes, it is difficult to solve tragedy of the commons dilemmas, but it happens, and there are societies that have successfully solved tragedy of the commons dilemmas. There are particular conditions under which the solution is more likely. For example, if the group is homogeneous, if they expect to pass on their rights to the next generation, if the resource is one that can be delineated, etc. But then as far as the question is concerned, what good does it do the United States to do it, to, say, rein in our production of greenhouse gases when we're going to be overwhelmed by China? The fact is that our example has a strong influence, an overwhelming influence on China and the rest of the world. And if we reined in our rampant consumption, that would be an example to encourage other countries to rein in their rampant consumption. But conversely, if the United States goes on squandering, we are in no position to tell other countries not to squander. And so I see, and in fact I've seen lots of hope in cases where we offer a good example instead of a bad example.